Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass Podcast. This is for UFC Vegas 66. This episode of the Dogger Pass Podcast and all episodes of the Dogger Pass Podcast are brought to you by Prize Picks. Use promo code DOP when making a new account to get a match up to $100 on your first deposit. Megan's on the sticks. Cody's on the line. Breaking down another card. Maybe at some point we'll talk about the, Doug Crosby, the Sabatello decision and all that. But, we'll do that a little bit deeper down the line. We've got 14 fights to break down here, Cody. So, pitter-patter, let's get at her, as they say in, hockey dressing rooms around this great country of Canada. We got Sean Strickland taking on Jared Cannonier in the main event. Sean Strickland and Jared Cannonier, it's pretty much straight pick 'em. I wrote it down at -110 on both sides. I feel like this fight goes off as a pick 'em. I actually took Jared Cannonier plus 100 is one of the few remaining plus money wagers on the board right now. It's kind of one of my mentality about it is that Strickland, if this fight goes the full distance, he can pick them apart. He can land the jab. He'll be more active. We've seen him do a whole bunch of that. I'm throwing out the entire idea because people will probably say it that Strickland could just go into this fight and wrestle. It's just no, he didn't do that against Pereira. He said that he didn't want to be a coward and do something like that against Pereira. So you have to throw out solid game planning with this guy moving forward, to be perfectly honest. I just think that Strickland has to fight the perfect fight. Cannonier could land an absolute bomb. He has been getting outclassed on the feet by some of the division's absolute elite, but at 185, Cannonier, we've talked about it for a long time. This guy's an absolute beast. He's got 5-round experience. He's got 5-round cardio. I just think he just lands the more damaging shots. So I actually favored him in my own capping leading into this, so I took the plus 100 when I saw it. We'll see where it goes over the course of the week. Not going to be shocked if I lose this bet, but it's the side in my humble opinion. What about you, buddy?
Well, speaking of not going to be shocked if I lose this bet, I decided to go the other way and take Sean Strickland. I know what you're saying. He needs to fight 25 minutes with a perfect game plan, but I think it's well within him to be able to do it. We've seen him go 15 minutes. We've seen him go later into fights. He does have this ability to just keep up high volume. And listen, the thing with the Alex Pereira situation is you got Strickland, who's a good striker, maybe not an elite striker, versus an elite striker in Pereira. So he goes out there, he wants to make a point out of it, he wants to stay in his face, he wants to have a gentleman's agreement to slug it out, and he gets knocked out. Does he learn anything from that? Probably. In that, if you're going to play this big volume game against these big power punchers, you need to start picking and choosing your spots. Now, Chris the Action Man Curtis, a good training partner of Sean Strickland, he very much so in that. He's a volume guy. He always throws out tons of volume. And then this past weekend against Joaquin Buckley, he's just getting styled on and then boom, crushes him. So talking to him, he makes a great point. He's like, why throw 100 when you can get the job done in 40? It's a situational matter, right? If you need to throw 100 plus significant strikes, you're going to keep going that volume. If you can be smart about it, be smart about it. When you're approaching Jared Cannonier, don't just spam lazy jabs. Just don't spam kicks up the middle. Maybe he's going to counter something. But I believe with Alex Pereira, it's always a matter of time. He's going to catch you eventually. You are playing with fire. When he fought Izzy that second time, he caught him, he knocked him out. For the record, in that second kickboxing match, Israel Adesanya is winning the fight. He just happens to get clipped. In the MMA fight between the two of them, Israel Adesanya is winning the fight. He just happens to get clipped. Pereira has that ability. Cannonier, meanwhile, he can't catch you. Don't get me wrong. This guy hits as good as any of them, but I don't see that ability quite as much as an Alex Pereira. You've seen Cannonier fight guys like Israel Adesanya get matadored. You've seen him fight Robert Whittaker and, get picked apart from the outside. You've seen him get out-hustled in these situations, and I think with Sean Strickland against a high volume, to me, is going to get the job done. So he does have a good chin. He does have good durability. He's just going to have to watch his mind, his P's and Q's, play it a little safer than he normally does, and get this thing going. Now, the one thing with Strickland, as much as he's a guy that could hit you 150 significant times, he's not exactly like the biggest power puncher. He doesn't really sit down on those strikes. It's more of a lot of touch and go, him talking shit to you, touch and go, touch and go. As a result, you see him go into later rounds. You see the fans sometimes say, why didn't he do more? It's just his style. So to me, I'm picking Sean Strickland, but I don't necessarily think he's going to finish Jared Cannonier. He's not going to take him down and submit him. We've already ruled that one out. Does he knock him out? Cannonier's fought some of the best. So I'm going to say no. And if it's going to be a Strickland by decision, which is extremely plausible, plus 200 on that, that's actually where I decide to go.
That's fair enough. I'm not going to argue too much with it. But don't be surprised when your boy Sean is convulsing on the canvas again.
If I was going to lose money on a guy, and I'm glad it's Sean Strickland, because if he was to be convulsing on the canvas, a part of you'd be like, serves him right. But in this instance, I'm backing him with my Mane, so hopefully he doesn't get K to the FO'd. But if he did, it's worse than betting on a guy you like and losing.
If they were in a bar, Cody, here, Megan, bring up the board. Straight pick 'em. You got Jared and Sean at your local drinking establishment. Who are you putting your money behind? That's how I how I cap this.
That's fair enough. And
have you seen these guys with their shirts off? It's not even a comparison. My God. These guys, Sean, you have a better tan than Sean Strickland. All right,
I'll leave you with this, and we totally move on. But last week, I thought I had a killer performance on the UFC card. Right, the one spot that evaded me that I do feel bad about was the Bryce Mitchell versus Ilia Topuria. And right before they're about to go out, they play the little pre-fight pack. And my wife's like, "Who you got?" I got Bryce Mitchell, and she's astonished. She's like, "Oh, you done screwed up." He looks so small. He's got his glasses, a little goatee. Topuria is a mean-looking dude, man. He's so mean-looking. And I thought, you know what? Maybe there's something to capping a fight like that. Who would you pick in a bar fight?
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't have worked out for you on the Paddy Pimblett versus Jared Gordon decision, but that's for another conversation.
It should have, but who knows?
All right, we got Arman Tsaryukyan taking on Damir Ismagulov, minus 185 Arman, plus 160 for Damir. Who you got here, buddy?
Yeah, this one's strictly just chasing price on it, right? We know Arman Tsaryukyan is a top talent. He's young. He's competitive. He fought Islam Makhachev in his debut. We all know that stuff about him, right? Very strong power wrestler, good grappler. I think he's really honing everything together. Striking seems to be making improvements as well. He does seem to lack some volume on the striking, right? You look at him in a lot of these fights where he'll get multiple takedowns, doesn't necessarily get the ground and pound, right? Some of the fights where he's standing up a little bit, good power in his hands, just, again, sometimes lacking some of that volume. And his last time out against Mateusz Gamrot, if it's a 3-round fight, it's Tsaryukyan all day long. He looks good early. He gets his wrestling going early. But the longer the fight, he gets his striking going early. The longer the fight takes place, Gamrot's able to grind on him, use his own takedowns. And to me, that was a big thing, is that for Tsaryukyan, he's an elite grappler. Yeah, can he beat Makhachev? Maybe not. Can he beat the other guys? Sure. Is he an elite striker? No, but he's got that grappling, and the striking's ever improving. To see him get taken down 6 times by Gamrot like that, and then furthermore, to see Gamrot struggle to take down, the elite guys of the division, struggle to take down a Beneil Dariush, struggle to take down, your boy Kudalitz. It makes me wonder, Tsaryukyan still is green. There's still elements to him. So I like him. I think he's got an extremely bright future. But in this spot, he's coming in as a near 2-1 favorite over a guy in Damir Ismagulov that, at times looks a little suspect. At times looks like you can pull one over from him. But for my money's worth, outside of his pure finishing ability, this guy's as well-rounded as anybody. He's got solid takedown defense. He's got solid striking, good enough numbers, very good durability on just a crazy long win streak. At plus 165, I feel like you can get worse underdogs. So how I need this fight to take place, Ismagulov stay to the outside, use that long jab, stick him, move, keep your hips going, and hopefully stuff the takedowns. If you can stuff the takedowns, which I think he'll be able to do, lead this to a striking battle. I can see the first round being competitive, but as he starts to get that jab going, as he starts to get that accuracy going, I just hope that he can stifle him a little bit, keep him at bay, and then squeeze one through. So I'm not going to lie, man, this is a 14-fight card. You do got about 3 even money fights on it, but in terms of actual underdogs, not a whole lot of them jumping out at me. Ismagulov at plus 165, one of the better ones that I did like.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever bet Ismagulov. I understand a lot of the stuff that you're coming from there. As an overall talent and long-term, ability, and who I think can get into the top 5 and make some real noise over the next little bit. I've always thought that Tsaryukyan had all of the skills. So I don't know how to really approach this one from a betting perspective. I'm going to pick Tsaryukyan. I think he will be able to land some takedowns here. And he's super, super quick on the feet. He's just a very, very well-rounded fighter all the way around. I was on Gamrot against Tsaryukyan, or at least I took it live at like a super, super wide number, as Gamrot was like mixing in those takedowns later in the fight and stuff. I don't know. It's just like Damir, even the wins that he has is like the one against Guram was just like razor close. Like there are people out there who scored it for Guram, and I don't know. Every single time
Guram's a beast.
And if you're going, I understand your mentality is that like this guy's always in close fights. I'm gonna take the plus 160, but I don't know. Something's telling me that that Arman is the side here, and that he's going to make it look relatively easy here. You got to remember, the kid's, he's born in 1996, super, super young still, really developing in front of our eyes. So I expect to see the best Arman Tsaryukyan that we have seen to date. All right, we got Amir Albazi taking on Alessandro Costa. Albazi, a minus 425 favorite. Costa can be had for plus 325. Costa coming in off of Dana White's Contender Series, and Albazi was supposed to take on Brandon Royval on this very night. I went and watched Costa's fight on the Contender Series, and I mean, the guy's built. Guy's super, super jacked. He's like 5'4" and just like built like a fire hydrant. Super, super strong. I'm not entirely sure how good his grappling is. He didn't really show it all that much in the Contender Series fight. Striking was fine, but like, this is flyweight. Everybody at flyweight has pretty much all of the skills to a decent degree, right? If you're a 125 guy and you're like lacking certain skills, it's like this is not the sport for you. Like, everybody's pretty good at just about everything down here. Amir's been an absolute freight train, just running dudes over, taking them down, choking them out. Do you have any inside information on Costa, what his grappling's like? Is he going to cause big problems for Albazi? Because if he could extend it, maybe he can make this fight a little bit interesting. Like Zhalgas made it somewhat interesting in that matchup. I mean, I'm going to pick Amir, but like even with all the props and him by submission, everything like that, there's not really very much meat on the bone there. So Albazi is the pick. I just don't really know how to attack this fight. What about you?
Yeah, it's a tough spot because, like, is Albazi clear winner at 425? Yeah, that's what it's suggesting. Does he knock him out, or does he submit him, or does he lay one up for a decision? Yeah, those are all the question marks. And then in terms of, let's just put him on the top of the ticket, which I'm definitely considering. Wise man once said, don't put heavyweights or flyweights at the top because there's just a lot of risk in those divisions. Now, I'll admit, he's supposed to take on, a very solid, talented fighter in Brandon Royval. That fight's crazy. That fight, many things could take place. This is a short notice replacement. And at that, they take a guy that won a split decision on the Contender Series, that got outstruck on the Contender Series, and who hasn't fought in 6 months, and then he's jumping in to make his debut against this young lion who's 3-0 in the division. So it's just a tough spot for him. In terms of his grappling, you can see stuff on the regional scene. Like, it looks okay. I'm going to go ahead and say that here's my difficulty with it. When you look at regional stuff, especially from Brazil, a lot of these guys could be a BJJ black belt. They're getting submissions on the regional scene. They might be fighting also BJJ black belts. But what's the level really at? Albazi, meanwhile, Albazi's got legitimate jiu-jitsu. To that tune, in his UFC debut, he fights Malcolm Gordon. Malcolm Gordon is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. Albazi clips him, drops him, puts him down, snags up a beautiful triangle choke, and subs him with a triangle, which is a feather in the cap move to hit him with early in the first round like that. So I thought his grappling looked quite good in that fight. His last fight against Figgy Jr., it's funny calling him Figgy Jr. just because he looks so much older and shorter than Davidson. But all the same, Davidson Figueiredo's brother is a BJJ black belt. And all the same, you see Albazi just cut right through and takes his back, locks in the rear naked choke. His striking looks good. He's very agile. He himself is very young, getting better. Wrestling looks pretty solid. You go back to the Ismagulov fight, 2 nice takedowns there, a little bit of ground control, outstruck him. All good stuff, man. And Zhalgas is like that gatekeeper of the division, right? How many guys beat him clean? Albazi at least beat him clean. It wasn't controversial. He won the rounds, right? It was a good test for him, but Zhalgas is a good test for everybody. So I think Albazi's grappling, even if Costa was a black belt, even if Costa had good jiu-jitsu, I feel like Albazi just not on another level, but well within himself. And then in terms of the striking, yeah, you got to deal with these power strikes. You got to make sure you don't get clipped. You can't get too cute, but his durability looks pretty solid. His volume looks pretty solid. Decent technical boxing, good volume in the pocket. So I just feel like Albazi outworks him. He outworks him to my tune, takes him down and strangles him out. That's how I would say it goes down. However, I'm not super confident in betting a prop on this because, yeah, it could be a decision. I suppose Costa could be a lot stronger than I give him credit for. If you look at him, he looks like he's a pretty strong physical guy, but this is a tough debut to make on short notice. So I'm not going to go with the underdog here. I'm definitely going to support Albazi. And of course, I'll be playing him higher up this week.
Yeah, if you're taking the shot on the props there, just take the inside the distance is like minus 120-ish. That's actually only at one book. Maybe I should get on that. Because, yeah, it's like minus 160 in other places. Well, I may have just made a bet, Cody.
There you go.
Albazi inside the I was going to say, like, try to do inside the distance because, like, him by submission is like plus 110. And it's your classic Pollyanna Vienna situation where I learned it's just like there's not much of a difference between the submission prop and the inside the distance prop. Don't get greedy because all of a sudden Pollyanna Vienna lands a quick 1-2 and your girl. I don't know if you ever did the shoey for that. Not that I'm calling you out on it, but I'm not sure you did the shoey for that one. People are saying
on this card.
People are saying.
We got a holiday episode next week, right?
We do.
If that's the case, I don't remember. If that's the case, guaranteed shoey on next week's holiday episode. But you can pick any fight on the card that we disagree with.
Okay.
And I'll take the other side automatic, and it's a double or nothing shoey bet. So either we're both doing a shoey or I'm doing a double shoey on next week's holiday episode.
I like that. I'm a gambling man. I'll take you up on that action. If hopefully we find something along the way, I'm gonna have to force it.
It's your call.
At that value,
in your court.
At that value, I'm gonna have to force one here. All right, we got Julian Erosa taking on Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres, minus 165 for Juicy J. Bruce Leroy can be had for plus 140. What's your take here, bud?
I could do you guys a favor, and I'll bet Juicy J, and you guys bet against him, and he'll get steamrolled. But if I do take Juicy J, then he's going to show up, or not show up, and just pull a stunt. Because, man, this guy is he's either mid-range, gatekeeper-type fighter, chinny, weak cardio, no punching power, or the times I bet against him, he looks good, dude. He's got it all. He's got all the intangibles. Like, let's say he can take a punch. His volume is very, very good. Stays to the outside, stays to the inside. If he wants to come forward and press you and be the aggressor, he actually does it quite well. If he wants to back up and use this poor man's Dominic Cruz, like swinging hooks from the outside, he does quite well. He'll punch, he'll kick, he throws with either side. He moves, so much movement. If he's the one coming forward, you got to do a lot of backpedaling. If you're the one coming forward, you still got to chase him around. Like he's super flat, like a fleet-footed, very quick out there, right? In terms of his volume, it doesn't necessarily have the biggest one-hitter quitter power, but keeps just racking it up. He stings opponents left, right, and center. His wrestling, pretty solid. His grappling, very solid. The submission win over Charles Jourdain, take him into deep waters. His last time against Akeem Dawodu, it's a picture-perfect performance. He beats him everywhere. Beats him standing. Beats him on the ground. Beats him in the cardio department. Breaks him. Insane. And then literally one fight before that, it's a tooth and nail fight to the death with Steven Peterson. So like, where's the rhyme or reason, Paul? It doesn't make sense. He's either got it, like he's a top 10 guy, or I don't really know what's coming out of Julian Erosa. So it's super hard to get a bid on this guy. But being that he's coming off the good performance, I gotta go with that, man. He looks so complete against Hakeem, and it's not just like it's one good fight, like he finally all put together. It's like there's moments in all of his fights of some brilliance, some excellent work, some high quality stuff. It's just, can he tie it together for a full 15 minutes and stay focused? And that is, I think, what you saw a lot more in the Hakeem Dawodu fight. And this is no disrespect to Bruce Leroy, but he, to me, very much is that solid gatekeeper that I don't see really getting beyond gatekeeper status. If you are legit and you're going to go on and have a bright future in the UFC, you beat Bruce Leroy. If you are not if you're going to fan out and be released from the division, in quick order, you lose to Bruce Leroy. And those are just the facts, man. He's got some decent wins, but again, I don't want to waste too much of your time, but these are his UFC wins. Cole Escovedo, cut. Demasio Page, cut. Matatubu Tuzaka, cut. I butchered his name, sorry. Roland Delorme from Manitoba, cut. Sergio Pettis, not his fault, but no longer with the promotion. Masio Fulham, cut. Cole Miller, cut. Roland D, cut. Martin Bravo, cut. Steven Peterson, clinging on to a job. Chase Hooper, I think he's cut. He should be cut. Hooper shouldn't be in the UFC. Austin Springer, cut. Kevin Kroon, cut. Does bare knuckle boxing now. Sung Woo Choi, I think he's clinging on for a job, but he's probably on the road to getting cut for the record. So it's possible to say that not one single one of his UFC wins, outside of Sergio, like that one aged quite well because of the Bellator title, they're not super relevant. Like he beats guys that are just not all that good. And so let's focus in on the last two because he has so many fights, you can't waste your time talking about all of them. But the last two, the Sung Woo Choi fight, Choi works him in the first round. He stays at the outside. He uses that Korean Muay Thai, teep kick up the middle, long left hand, right? I thought he was doing very good work in that first round. Second round, Bruce Leroy creates a little scramble, takes his back, chokes him out. Damn, got caught. But it's not as if he dominated that fight. And then in his last time out against Saidyokub Sif, I thought he looked way better. But he did stand in front of him and just allow Saidyokub Sif to get off first, right? To get the combinations going, to outwork him, to essentially lead the dance. And so my issue in this Erosa fight is Bruce Leroy's got excellent grappling, but it's Erosa, so I don't think he's going to take him down. I don't think he's going to submit him. If he's forced to stand, he'll have moments. He'll land that jab. He'll keep it competitive. I just think Erosa is going to cleanly outwork him, right, with the overall work rate, with the ability to come forward with a little bit of bigger size, I think, in there, which is what you're going to see. So I got to go with Juicy J, and I'm going to, again, take Juicy J by decision because Bruce Leroy got a hell of a chin, if anything else. So durable enough to make it to the 15-minute mark. So I think Erosa wins. Erosa wins by decision.
I'm with you. I'm not really going to add on too much. I will say that on Prize Picks there was 65.5 significant strikes for Juicy J. This guy throws a lot of volume. The biggest thing why I'm picking Erosa with you on this is that my biggest concern with Erosa and pretty much all of the matchups that he gets into is the opponent he's facing got like crazy power. I don't really trust his chin all that much, and Bruce Leroy isn't exactly a one-hitter quitter kind of guy. So we're going to ride the Juicy J train here, but Prize Picks, that significant strikes prop for Erosa seems like something worth snagging. 65.5, it's just like if you go through Erosa's recent fights here, 92 versus Dawadu, 155 versus Steve Peterson, 103 against Charles Jourdain. When he got knocked out against Sung Woo Choi, well, he only got 10. It's just like you're basically, if this fight goes to decision, which I kind of expect this fight to what I expect to happen in this fight, he's going to clear. Even though, like, Caceres does slow down the pace a little bit. He fights at range. He doesn't make it easy to get hit. He doesn't make himself an easy target. I think Erosa clears that number pretty easily if this fight goes a full 15. So I will be adding Erosa significant strikes more than 65.5 on Prize Picks. Again, promo code DOP to get a match up to $100 on your first deposit. All right, moving on. We've got Drew Dober taking on Bobby Green. Dober, a minus 150 favorite. Green can be had for plus 130. Are we going to bet? I kind of want to bet Bobby Green, Cody. And then what's going to end up happening is he's going to outland Drew Dober. He's going to eat shots and he'll 2-1 on significant strikes land on Drew Dober. Dober won't really react because he's got, look at the size of the guy's freaking chin. The board's up right now. Like, the guy's got a freaking fire hydrant strapped to his freaking, it's absurd, the shape of this guy's melon. We have seen him actually, against McKenna, he was rocked a little bit. I'm not worried about the Bobby Green knocking him out, really. He's capable, but, he's not exactly a murderous power puncher. The real key is that, Bobby Green has insane durability himself. I think he ends up winning the volume, and then it comes down to when this goes to a scorecard, the stats will tell you Bobby Green won this fight. Your eyes may tell you that Bobby Green won this fight, but the bigger shots get landed by Dober. But the thing about it is if these lines were flipped, if Dober was plus 130, Bobby Green was minus 150, I wouldn't be touching with the 10-foot pole. The only reason I'm considering it is that if Bobby Green shows up I think he is a cleaner, more dynamic boxer at the very least. Not a kickboxer. Dober obviously has, the pedigree of American kickboxing. But I think Bobby Green is a much slicker, cleaner boxer. When he's on, he can put up, 150 significant strikes on anybody. And I struggled to see Dober keeping up with that pace. On top of that, maybe Bobby Green's probably a better grappler, but it's like, good luck. I'm not counting on this guy to secure any takedowns, to go for any takedowns, to even think about grappling in the slightest. I have to be prepared, if I can put my money behind him, that he's going to have a 15-minute striking affair and win on volume. I don't know if it's actually going to get my money, but that'll be my pick, is Bobby Green, for the purposes of this show. What's your take here, bud?
Well, it might not get your money, but it might get your shoey bet honors, because I will go the other way on this one. I'm going to go with Drew Dober. Again, I think you nailed it with close competitive fight, because it's a Bobby Green fight, man. It's going to be close. He's going to be landing. The judges are going to be deciding, I don't really know who to swing it to. And the key is every time that Bobby Green lands a shot, Drew Dober's big old coconut melon of his is going to take the shots. But every time Drew Dober lands a shot, Bobby Green's going to basically tell everybody in the arena that Drew Dober landed a shot, because he's just going to shake his head, Paul. He's going to do that head shake. He's going to be head shaking all night long. And I think that's going to be the key difference in the judges' eyes. Dober mixes in the leg kicks well as well. I think Bobby Green's very flat-footed. He's got a traditional boxing style. In fact, he's the only guy in MMA that rocks a Philly shell defense, right? Similar to a Floyd Mayweather, similar to a Pernell Whitaker. And he almost his hands low, and it's all about the swivel, right? He loves to swivel. That's why he's very evasive and defensively sound. But for clean wrestlers like the Islam Makachev of the world, he's dead meat because he's flat-footed. And I want to believe, this is what I'm trying to convince myself of, is to good kickboxers, they should have a good solid advantage of them as well. You got to pound that leg. And what Bobby does excellent is Bobby stays in the pocket, stays aggressive, and everything you land, he's shaking his head. Nothing seems to phase him. Most of the guys that he fights, he's willing to get hit because it just does not phase him. Now, I'm not saying that Drew Dober's any bigger of a power puncher than a Rafael Fiziev, because Fiziev failed to get Bobby Green's respect. I almost feel like Drew Dober's not the kind of guy you just recklessly walk forward on and try to touch up all night with jabs from the outside. If you want to play volume against strict power, Dober sits down on his punches, man. He's got a tremendous amount of power. He is durable. Training out of Colorado, he's got the altitude. He's got ability to go 15 minutes. And I really think that the leg kicks are going to slow down Bobby. He'll hack down on the leg, move side to side, hopefully evade the jab, land something in return, and then that's what I think is going to sway the judges. So close fight, decision fight, maybe even a split decision. But I think Drew Dober is going to get his hand raised. So I will play Dober, and then to sweeten the action a little bit, because minus 150, just not good enough for me. I would chase it by decision. Bobby Green's been knocked out by Dustin Poirier. So could happen. Of course, it could happen, but not super likely. Dober hits like an absolute hammer, enough to sway the judges, but I don't think enough to knock out Bobby Green clean.
You will not be getting a shoey bet from me on this one. I'll tell you that much. I'm not putting that deal you handed to me on the shoulders of Bobby Green. Just not going to do it. I can't. You gave me a good opportunity, and I'm not going to. There's got to be another spot that I feel better about. I would be so tilted if the fight plays out kind of the exact way that most Bobby Green fights, outside of the, Islam just took him down and absolutely just mauled him. But if most Bobby Green fights, he wins on volume. The stats bros at the end of the fight are on Twitter after he gets robbed, and they're like, "Oh, look at how many more significant strikes he landed." It's just yes, what always happens. But he tells, the real thing is that he tells the judges every single time he gets eaten clean or eats a clean shot, he goes, nah, that didn't hurt. Waves his finger. It's just bro, you're telling them they. Have you seen Adelaide Bird? Her glasses on and stuff. It's she can't see what's going on in that cage. You can see with her scorecards half of the time. It's don't shake your head. Don't acknowledge that you got hit whatsoever, because she has no idea what's going on. With plenty of judges, that's the name of the game these days. Maybe we have to investigate them too. Now that Krause is feeling the heat, there could be more to it. But we'll talk about that a little bit later down.
Jim Donahue.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later on the show. I feel like we can't really avoid it. Michal Oleksiejczuk takes on Cody Brundage, minus 270 for Michal, Mikey O. And Brundage can be had for plus 230. Great you know, 100, like we kind of always said when Mikey O was fighting at 205, he had a lot of talent, had a lot of ability. He was just incredibly undersized at 205 pounds. Moving down to middleweight, obviously, you know, he took on the ghost of the ghost of the ghost of Sam Alvey. But man, did he put the hurt on him, and did he put the hurt onto him quick. And frankly, like we hadn't, you know, Sam Alvey's thing has always been that like his chin had more or less held up in a lot of matchups. He'd been knocked out a few times down the stretch there. Man, what a bad. It's crazy how long that guy was able to keep his job. It was a pretty easy match. It was a pretty easy matchup. I don't think I've ever put money on Brundage against Dalka. Boy, oh boy, he was almost dead in the water right out of the gate there, and then somehow pulls that off. Even Gore was having a little bit of success, like very, very early, obviously, and then he lands a nuke on him and finishes him. I don't know. I've just not that Maximov fight. I mean, not that that's really stylistically, you know, helpful whatsoever against Mikey O, but it's kind of telling that like Maximov is very, very limited, was only able to do one thing, and Brundage wasn't able to stop. Is Brundage going to be able to spam takedowns here, hold Mikey O down, and cover this price tag? That is the real question. I see people talking about how Cody is like a great wrestler, but really all I have on paper that I can really confirm is that Maximov fight, where I wasn't all that impressed by his grappling ability. So Mikey O knockout, is that how this one shakes out? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to agree. Like, this one seems a little bit trappy because when you look at it on tape, that's what it looks like. It looks like Brundage sometimes gets off to a bit of a slow start and he's there to eat damage. Not necessarily the most durable guy, whereas Mikey O is just dynamic. The thing is, at 205 pounds, as you mentioned, undersized. And here's what I can't quite figure out. Is his poor cardio because he has poor cardio? Or is it because he's fighting such big guys? Because if he could sustain the pace that he has for the first 3-4 minutes of the fight, this guy definitely has got somewhat championship caliber potential. If you remember his fight with Alvin St. Preux, he 10-8s Alvin St. Preux in the first round. It's an absolute savage beating. And then he comes out for the second and he's just a shell of himself. So St. Preux, a big 205er, currently fights in the UFC as a heavyweight and once challenged John Jones for the UFC title. He's no slouch or walkover opponent. I think you see that he could have been a top 205er, but being undersized and having the cardio kind of let him down. So now at 185, when you saw him on the scales for Sam Alvey, damn, dude, this is where he should have been already. And he's young and clearly he knows he has bad cardio. So god damn, if the weight cut down causes him to be stricter with his diet, causes him to be more serious, causes him to, you know, draw everything in, and he can go 10, maybe 15 minutes, I think that he could be a problem. If he's who he used to be, which is 3, maybe 5 minutes of pure savage, just savagery in the cage, it still might be enough to get the job done. Because I think, again, Brundage is there to get hit. You mentioned the fight with Luciambula. He's getting absolutely smashed pillar to post. The fight could get stopped. It's very close to getting stopped. And then he ends up grabbing a beautiful guillotine choke to save his life. In his next fight with Tsaryukyan Gore, he looked actually, I thought, a lot better. Very patient, allowed Gore to come to him and then knocked him out with a shot. But maybe a tad bit too patient against Prince Michal. He comes at you. It's Lord Michal. I always call him Prince Michal for some reason. Lord Michal, he comes at you, and I don't know that Brundage is going to stand up to him. I think the best way of attacking this one is probably hit it under 2.5. Probably even hit the under 1.5. It seems like Mikey O's either going to put him away or in turn die trying, get taken down, maybe get snagged up with some type of submission. So under 2.5 looks good. Fight doesn't go the distance. That looks pretty good. If you were greedy, the under 1.5 per se. But I'm going to go with the Michal Oleksiejczuk inside the distance, more specifically by knockout. I think he gets the job done. I think 85 is the division that he should have been for a long time. And I think that Brundage is the perfect opponent to do that. Yeah, he can wrestle, but he's not elite. Yeah, he can grind. He's not elite. Yeah, he can strike a little bit, has a little bit of power. But I think that you're going to see a guy that's fought some top 10 guys in his career and actually done quite well for themselves versus a guy in Cody Brundage, who's still kind of at that contender series level, fighting contender series veterans, fighting guys that are washing out of the UFC. The Dalcha fight, again, almost loses this one. And Dolce is on a 4-fight losing streak, likely getting cut from the promotion. So one guy's operating at a low level at 185 pounds. The other guy's fought in some of the best guys in the world at 205 pounds and is still younger and is still more talented. I just got to hope the cardio's in line, Paul. If it is, we're going to be good. But if it's not, we could have some problems, and the under 1.5 would be good. So that's kind of where I'm thinking with this one.
All right, moving on down, we've got Cheyanne Vlismas taking on Cory McKenna. -200 Vlismas, +170 for your girl, Cory McKenna. Is she going to stick to wrestling, Cody? Because I'm not going to lie, Pat Mayo special. It seems like a dogger pass spot here. Is Cory going to stick to a wrestling game plan? Because that has been like the most frustrating thing. Backing her in some of these recent fights is like, which fight am I thinking of in particular here?
Montserrat Ruiz. Oh, you're thinking of Elise Reed fight where she could have beaten Elise Reed on her worst day had she wrestled, man.
Yeah. And
I guess it was Danny Castillo's fault.
Yeah. And Vlismas, I mean, she's got a little bit of pop in her hands. But yeah, I mean, I like +270 took Montserrat Conejo, also known as Montserrat Ruiz, in that spot. And yeah, 4 takedowns. Literally the exact same take. It was just like a headlock, head and arm throw, and then she would hold that position. It's just like it was right there. It was right for the taking. Nobody's really tested that grappling since, and -200 is, 66% win probability. So it feels dogger pass to me. I'm going to pick Cory McKenna. Hopefully she sticks to wrestling. Like, she's got a 58-inch reach, man. T-Rex arms. It's like, we are not winning this fight at range. You got to get this fight to the mat early and often. Do not play this fight like you did against Elise Reed, and I think she can come away with like a grappling-based decision or maybe even a submission. I'm not entirely sure how good Vlismas's ground game is when they get down there, but the fight's got to get to the mat. But Cory McKenna for me. What about you?
Yeah, I got to go the other way. I got to go with Cheyanne Vlismas. Again, I think that she's very talented. When she came to the UFC, I thought she was talented. At the time, she was Cheyanne Buys. She was married to JP Buys, South African wrestling standout, whose MMA career hasn't really all been that good, but solid wrestling, and that she was known as good wrestling, very athletic fighter with good volume. So the fight with Montserrat Ruiz, bro, you tried to warn me about it. You really did. And Montserrat Ruiz got the job done. But people only see the 3 rounds in the octagon. If you remember after that fight, Cheyanne Vlismas told her, "I'll follow you home, bitch." So who knows how the rematch went later on that night in some parking lot somewhere. I think she's game. I think she got caught in a bad spot. She was on the record saying, well, I know this is her move, but not going to work on me. And then it worked on her quite effectively. But she had a lot of fight in that. She had a lot of fight in her. She just didn't really get to show it. So her last 2, the Gloria DePaulo fight, I thought she looked pretty good. Getting a first round KO, minute 6 seconds into the round. What can you really take away from it? But she looked comfortable. She went through divorce. She said that she had some personal issues, but to see her come out and have a nice clean performance like that over someone who's not a walkover per se, that's good, man. It talks about the mental space. And then the last one against Mallory Martin. Mallory Martin can wrestle. So Steve Vlismas, go out there, be physical, bully her around. 134 significant strikes landed, good cardio, solid, composed. I feel like Vlismas is going to move into some type of, not necessarily title contention, but she will move up the ranks, and I think she's in for some good fights. She's full-time out of Las Vegas. She's got a lot of stuff going her way. I feel like she's one of those fighters that could have a breakout year maybe in 2023. It's just she has that one fight with Ruiz. It's allowing people to keep going back to it and saying, oh, she's limited. She's not that good. She's almost like a dark horse of the division, I think, going forward. Whoa, with Cory McKenna, as you said, yeah, no, honestly, I don't think she's really all that bad. Like, what I see from her is works at this level.
Dark horse of
volume.
Yeah, but dark horse of the division implies that you think she's going to win a title.
Well, then I definitely used the saying wrong. But I'm saying dark horse in the terms of, remember when Angela Hill was on The Ultimate Fighter? She was 1-0. And she was the dark horse of the tournament, not thinking she's going to win. Yeah, she's a 16 seed, right? So it's like she's got the ability to maybe... Brandon Moreno was the 16 seed. Are they going to win the whole show? No. But are they going to go out there and do a lot better than 16 seed would imply? Absolutely, I think so. Vlismas, meanwhile, she lost to Ruiz. Ruiz is having no success in the division. She's coming off a win over Mallory Martin. Mallory Martin is no longer in the UFC. So she's operating at a low level. But I think this is a young fighter that was very much confidence-based, had personal life issues, had some setbacks, and I think she's going to grow from it and get better. I like what she brings to the table in terms of volume. And I'm not saying she's a Kayla Chukadian. I'm not saying she's a Mano Fiorot. She doesn't fight like them whatsoever. But girls that can routinely land over 100 significant strikes are going to outwork their opponents 9 out of 10 times. They're going to have success. I think she could start replicating that. Cory McKenna, meanwhile, I like grapplers. Of course, who doesn't like grapplers? So Cory McKenna, when she grapples, seems okay. But another one of these fighters, born in 1999, she's very young. And so the UFC would have to develop her properly and bring her along. She moves over to Team Alpha Male. She was training with Sarah McMahon. She comes out for a fight versus Elise Reed. That's essentially a Taekwondo black belt versus a good, solid wrestler who trains at a wrestling gym with wrestling coaches. And they sold her up the river, man. They just told her, you're winning this fight, which she was not. They told her, don't shoot the takedowns. You're winning these striking exchanges. Mm-hmm. The third round, she got the fight to the ground, but it was too little too late. They sold her up the river. It was bad advice. Now she comes back from that fight against Miranda Granger, and what do you know? She uses her wrestling and makes it look easy and gets the win. But Miranda Granger not on the same level of a Cheyanne Vlismas. And if you get the takedown early, that's great. Are you going to keep going takedown for 15 full minutes? If you do get the takedown, are you easily going to hold her down? I think Vlismas is stronger. I think Vlismas' wrestling's pretty solid. Takedown defense, not terrible. If you want to hit her with a head and arm throw, okay, I get it. It worked a few times, but Montserrat Ruiz, that's her move, bro. That's her one move. It's what she lands on people. It is what it is. I'm not going to take too much into consideration. I don't think that's going to exactly be the move that's going to defeat her this time. I just feel like her ability to stay up on the feet more often than not and then use the volume, use the striking. McKenna versus Elise Reed, she was lost. There was no plan B, Paul. She just waded forward and allowed herself to get punched 2-3 times clean in the face. Reed was landing clean. Those shots were one at a time, one and done shots, not much combination punching, but they were landing clean. And McKenna was cool with just eating a shot in the face and stalking around the cage. So she's young. She'll learn. She'll get better. And maybe at some point she's twice the fighter Cheyanne Vlismas is. I just don't think she is right now. So I got to go Vlismas. And again, sound like a broken record, but Vlismas by decision. I don't see her winning this fight inside the distance.
All right. Fair enough. Let's move on. We got Jake Matthews taking on Matt. I don't know where my brain went there for a second. Jake Matthews taking on Matthew Semelsberger. Jake Matthews is a minus 260 favorite. Semelsberger can be half a plus 220. This line is super, super wide, and it's because Jake Matthews came out and probably had the best performance that we've seen from him probably ever. Like, he was looking very, very light on his feet against Andre Fialho. He did get dropped at the end of round one. I think people definitely forget that. He ate a big shot, went down. That would be my only concern here, especially with laying the minus 260, or parlaying him up, getting so super excited about that, is that Jake hasn't always had the best chin, but I think there's a big path to wrestling here, which is something that we had seen. He didn't show whatsoever against Fialho. He just decided to show out on the feet, but that's what Jake did in a lot of his fights earlier on in his career. And, you go to Semelsberger versus AJ Fletcher, and Fletcher was able, at least early in that fight, to land takedowns and get in there. That was a fight that we were at odds about. I think Jake is really actually coming into his own. I hate the price, not because I think it's about right. So it's there doesn't really seem to be too much meat on the bone at minus 260. I think Jake is a very, very deserving favorite. Has all the skills to win this fight. The safest path to victory for him is probably to secure some takedowns, use that grappling. But I still think he could actually win this fight at range as well. He just, make it a lot harder on himself and probably not cover the minus 260 while also putting himself at risk of getting knocked out by Semi the Jedi. But, Jake Matthews is the pick for me. Not sure if I'm going to be betting it because I think the bookies got this line right, to be perfectly honest. What about you?
I think you got this right. Well, also, you pretty much used all my points. I think Jake Matthews could win this fight with his stand-up game. He's got He's pretty fast. His father was a kickboxing stand-up. He is a grappler. He grew up grappling. When he fought in the UFC, everything was grappling. But you could see a conceited effort in his last number of fights to use the kickboxing. And I'll be damned, man. He's starting to really land. He's starting to sit down in those shots. He hadn't had no knockout wins in the UFC. He was either a guy that was going to grind you down, decision you, or maybe snatch up a submission. But in that last fight with Andre Fialho, you saw that he's got some good power. He's no longer a big lightweight or small welterweight. He's becoming a big welterweight. I mean, again, young. We've really seen this guy grow and develop in front of our eyes, Paul. The difference is he could have left Australia and gone to American Top Team and tried this 5 years ago. Instead, he decided, I'm going to stay with my dad home and take the slow route. And the slow approach has got him still being relevant in 2023, not fanning out with so many other, good prospects that we've seen come and go. So to Jake Matthews' credit, I do think that he's rounding out his game and becoming a good, solid fighter. Like you mentioned, dropped by Andre Fialho, but Fialho, if nothing else, is a solid power puncher. And Matthews recovers, comes back from that one. What was that greasy one once upon a time? He got booted in the face. We all had so much money on
Akbar Areola.
Yeah, right.
Oh, buddy,
so
that one scared me for years, and it almost still scares me to this day. Because he was a 10-1 favorite, and then almost got, I think it was round 2, ate a head kick to the dome, and butts were puckered. I'll tell you that much.
But that's the key, dude. That was the night that Akbar Areola almost caught Captain Jack Sparrow because he was so goddamn close. But he dropped him onto his ass. And then you saw Jake Matthews as a young kid who now has to face adversity, gets floored, gets back up, works his way back into the fight, and ends up winning against Akbar Areola. So even as a young kid, you saw he had that fighter mentality. And now older, more developed, full of tattoos now. No longer that kid on The Ultimate Fighter. He was 19 when he was on Team Australia versus Team Canada, The Ultimate Fighter. So again, someone that I think we've seen in front of our eyes develop through experience and octagon time and fighting good opponents and losing, fighting bad opponents and learning, fighting everything in between. He's really rounding out his game. So when you mentioned that he could win stand-up, he could win on the ground, I completely agree. I think that he is kind of getting to that level. With Matthew Semelsberger, he's big. He's a big boy for the division, 6'1", 75-inch reach. Definitely a thick kind of guy. But again, when you look at the level that he's operating at, he beats up Martin Sano. He gets a quick knockout over him. He's got a couple, the quick win over Jason Witt. He's fought some guys like Carlton and Carlton Minus and just lower level guys that may not be holding down a job at the promotion anymore. I think he's tough. I think he's a big body, but he's very much herky jerky. Now you had AJ Dobson. I didn't necessarily agree with it because the kid's so young, right? Sorry, AJ Fletcher. You had AJ Fletcher. Fletcher's just so young. He's green. Semelsberger's a big body, and he's going to touch this kid up, and he's going to make him work. Man, that was a close fight. That was a very close fight. Could have gone either way. I thought Semelsberger did the more work rate, especially as Fletcher started to tire, but it showed a vulnerability in his grappling for sure. Here's a guy that's been doing MMA for a handful of years, comes from a football background, and he's just bulldozing you to the ground and getting significant amounts of top control. Even in the third round, it's an AJ Fletcher takedown. Semelsberger just happens to reverse and get up on top. Mm-hmm. Well, he's lucky that he had an inexperienced green opponent who's been training in MMA for a handful of years out of a smaller gym in Louisiana. Because if it was Jake Matthews, he would have been in a world of shit. Better wrestler, actual BJJ black belt, actual UFC experience, bigger body, way more comfortable. He would have been screwed. And then his very next performance is against Alex Morono. Morono doesn't wrestle. He's actually got a black belt, shockingly. But Morono doesn't shoot takedowns on anybody. So he opted to just stand up and beat up Semelsberger, out-volume him, right? So when you say Matthews could do that, I think he can. But I think Matthews could just go back the takedown route, bro. It's there for you. So I think he gets it. I really want to try a Matthews inside the distance. I feel like he's got so many decisions on his record. He's known as a decision guy, but he might be starting to turn the corner. But as I say that, Semelsberger's tough, dollar store beef jerky, and Matthews does have a reputation for holding on a little bit. So even though I want to believe he's changed, I'm not entirely sold that he's changed. So could be a decision, I suppose, as well. The main thing is, money line's not great, but I don't know a great prop to attack it with at this point, so I'll just play the straight-up Jake Matthews.
Yeah, the Matthews inside the distance prop, they opened it up pretty wide, and it seems like, early money, sharp money, I would imagine, is moving it. Like it opened at like plus 285. It's down to plus 165 at one place.
Yeah.
Another place it opened at plus 210, and it's already down to plus 188, and that's the best number on the market right now. So early action is coming in on Jake, who, frankly, looked the best we've ever seen from him. He's still super young and coming into his own. This seems like a very winnable fight. So the minus 260, it could be a little bit jarring, but if he is what we saw against Fialho, it probably, it makes sense. Moving on down, we got Julian Marquez taking on Deron. Winn, minus 175 Marquez, plus 150 for Deron. Winn, who do you like here, bud?
Okay, so when you talk about trap lines, this could be it, because I almost feel like just dropping the hammer against Deron Winn. And here's the scary part that makes me say, oof, I don't know. It's not even that it's Julian Marquez. It's that I think after seeing Deron Winn's last fight, I might drop the hammer on anybody that man was fighting inside the octagon, Paul. He does not belong. I'm sorry. I know that sounds bad. He's a career-long athlete. He's Daniel Cormier's buddy. He trains at American Kickbox Academy, one of the best gyms going. He's got MMA fights. He's got over 10 MMA fights under his belt. He's been fighting most of his career in the UFC, which is a very tough task for anybody, but Deron Winn does not do it for me. He's got nothing going for him. In terms of his size within the division, no size within the division. He's 5'6" with a 70-inch reach at 185 pounds. It's astonishingly small. He's the only guy 5'6" in middleweight history. He's the only guy with a 70-inch reach in middleweight history. He's extremely undersized. He has the frame of a welterweight. He has the frame of a lightweight, but he barely even cuts weight to 85, man. They need the towel for the guy. He's always having bad weight cuts. He actually fought at 195 catchweights and 205 pounds once upon a time. He's just so stocky and dense. And it's well, what can he do? It's can he strike a little? Absolutely not. He may have the worst striking in division history. Nah, that's a lie, because the sport goes back to 1993 where nobody could strike. But Deron Winn, because of the 70-inch reach, is that he comes up short on pretty much everything. If he's going to go jab for jab, you're going to punch him square in the face. He's going to come up short at air. So everything's got to be clubbing hooks over the top to set up the takedowns. He wings his punches. He's got very little power. He doesn't get his opponent's respect. He doesn't fight good inside close quarters. He definitely doesn't fight good at range. So it's well, what can he do? It's this some bitch can wrestle. I'll tell you that. DC's buddy, built like DC. They bring in plane full of Russians time after time into the gym, Khabib's boys, and they go through Deron Winn. It's this guy can wrestle. He's a legit good wrestler. And then you see him in the octagon. He either A, is not shooting, or B, beautiful takedown, and then the guy just quite literally stands right back up. His top control time is non-existent. Beautiful takedowns, multiple takedowns. He could hit 5, 6, 7 on you, and they'll just stand right back up. And when you stand right back up, his explosive moves, the fact that he's just carrying around so much excess weight, his cardio's not good. I don't know what to tell you. His last fight with Phil Hawes was the first time that it honestly looked like someone should just throw the towel in from the 2-minute mark onwards. And I had the fight to start round 3. So I'm screaming at the TV come on, Deron, come on. It felt like I was screaming for days, Ball. It went on forever. It was just a clean beating, a savage beating, the entirety of that fight. He didn't even shoot, really. He'd think about shooting and then eat a shot and then back away. He walked head into elbows time and time again, face busted up, turns away, heart of a champion. I'll give him that, dude. Most guys would have been no mas, no mas. He did try to fight on to the best of his abilities. He was just so largely outgunned. Now, Phil Hawes is a physical specimen, but
and a former wrestler.
And a former wrestler, a former junior college national champion for what it's worth. It's tough matchup, maybe, but to get beat up that bad by him, I don't know. Now, Julian Marquez, he had this massive neck. It wasn't a neck
surgery.
Wasn't
he a Kraus guy? So
cuff.
Did he leave Kraus? What's going on with that? He was training with Kraus for years? Did he leave very recently?
Kraus, yeah. I don't know. Well, I don't know. But TJ Brown from last week's card was with James Kraus, and then I guess he had left. And to be honest, TJ Brown looked pretty good. I'm kind of expecting the same thing out of Marquez. The hit and miss thing with him is that one time he looked like he'd be pretty good. You want to talk about Phil Hawes? Here's a guy that folded Phil Hawes with a first-round head kick on the Contender Series. It looked like he had a bright future. But I want to say it's a rotator cuff issue. He tore his rotator cuff. They say it's something that is mostly seen in high-level MLB pitchers. Just shredded off the bone. He had like a couple major reconstructive surgeries to try to get him back. And the guy that's come back to the octagon, not quite the same guy that left the octagon, that brute ability to just come forward, withstand damage and give it back, not quite there anymore. He does seem a lot slower. His grappling has improved a lot, but his cardio is not quite there to back it up. His last fight with Gregory Rodriguez looked like Picasso in there. He could not do anything wrong. He absolutely killed him. But again, he's another one of these high-level guys. How does Marquez do with a guy like Deron Winn? If he can keep the fight standing, he'll just back him up, batter him up. To me, what's going to happen in this fight is Winn's going to get early takedowns. Marquez is going to stifle him with good BJJ. Marquez will work back up to his feet, slug him with some big shots. Winn will take them. The second round, they're both sucking wind. And even though Winn's got the heart of a champion, when that becomes a sloppy fight and those takedowns aren't available for him, he just won't win the fight. He's just not going to beat Marquez in a fight where you throw one, I throw one, because he just doesn't have that striking to fall back on. And for the cardio, if his cardio is in check, he could be a problem maybe. It's just not. You see it time and time again. Wrestling is not a fight. You know, the emotions that go into a fight. They're getting kicked in the head. They're getting kneed in the head. Oh, great, I got a takedown. And now this guy's slamming me with 6 elbows in the head. Like, it's not a wrestling match. Winn is not a fighter. He's a wrestler. He's the wrestler with a heart of gold. Don't get me wrong. Guy's got a heart of a fighter. Just hasn't really been able to transition it. So even at Bellator, he'd be one of those guys in Bellator that would come in as a minus 1,600 favorite against some dude from, you know, the Midwest regional scene and then get folded by an uppercut in the first round, Pat Downey style. That's how I see Deron Winn going. Great wrestler, not transitioning over to the world of MMA.
I'm going to play devil's advocate, Cody. Here are the wrestling luminaries that were successful in wrestling against Julian Marquez. Maki Pitolo took him down 5 times. Alessio Di Chirico, probably the greatest Italian wrestler in UFC history. 4 takedowns. And Darren Stewart, who, like, if you flip it, it was 6-1 in takedowns, Winn versus Stewart, 4-0 for Darren Stewart. Now, he won 2 of those because he was able to get a choke. So he had a guillotine choke against Darren Stewart. He had an anaconda choke against Maki Pitolo. Bring up the board there.
Ooh, he's got no neck.
He got no neck.
Oh, no.
Deron Winn.
No.
Deron Winn by decision. Plus 375. Added it to the card. I think it was very, very ugly. It was a very, very ugly loss. He showed that he had a lot of durability at the very least against Phil Haas. But, it was a really, really bad matchup. He's taking on a guy who can stall every single little bit of the wrestling and has way better striking, is way bigger, way longer. If Winn is able to get takedowns and secure top control, I'm not convinced that Marquez is going to be able to get back up consistently, at least. I took the shot on Deron Winn. Win by decision plus 375. I just think this guy can't really, outside of the regional scene where he had some, he was fighting taxi cab drivers and stuff like that, and he's got some finishes. He's not finishing anybody at the UFC level. Doesn't really have much of a grappling game. It's if he's going to win, it's going to be by decision. Get me off of that plus 150. Get me on to him by decision plus 375. But we're not making that the shoey bet either. I'm not too confident. There's a couple spots coming up where we may actually, though. We got Saeed.
I'll give you one in this next fight right here, I bet you.
Well, I'm more interested in the fight after that.
Okay.
But we'll see where you land on that. We got Saeed Nurmagomedov taking on Saidyokub. Kakhramonov. Straight pick 'em, homie. Who you got?
Straight pick him, man. This is a great fight, dude. This is really good matchmaking. The UFC throws a Magomedov versus a Kakhramonov, and it is on. With Saeed Nurmagomedov, again, not directly related to the man, the myth, the legend himself. And to me, that's the problem, dude. When you think of Nurmagomedov, you think of wrestling. That's what you're thinking of. You're thinking of the ability to go out there, withstand whatever needs to be to get this fight to the ground. And when the fight gets to the ground, there is a mauling about to happen. These guys wrestling bears in the mountains of Dagestan. They are battle-tested and ready to go. Saeed Nurmagomedov rocks a cool-sounding last name. But he's a striker. I mean, he's very dynamic. He likes to throw a lot of spinning attacks. Very quick-footed, good footwork. Sets up a lot of these wild, weird angle shots, but lands extremely effectively. The thing is that when guys shoot takedowns on him, that's generally where they're getting the most success. He only has a 70% takedown defense ratio in the UFC. His last fight against Douglas D'Andrade gives up one takedown to him. Screw that. None of that matters. Go back to the Rowdy Barcelos fight. That's the real deal here. Because in the third round, this thing's 1-1 going into the third. It's close. It's competitive. Saeed's having his opportunity standing. It's in the third. He needs to keep his fight standing. Rowney just gets him with an easy money takedown. And once he does take him down, he's able to have a lot of good, solid control on him. When I look at Kakhramonov, here's a guy that, again, I mean, Kakhramonov goes way back. He wrestled, I don't know exactly, I couldn't quite find like the level that he had wrestled at. It seemed like it was like US, the cadet level, like FILA cadet level almost. But all the same, I mean, he has solid wrestling background. With the name Kakhramonov, his family probably comes from a wrestling heritage. And then he lands in PFL 2018 against Umar.
That's when I became aware of him.
And Umar's the real deal, right? You want to talk about guys that have the last name Nurmagomedov. He's actually a real Nurmagomedov. He's undefeated. He's the Bellator champion. He's the real deal, right? That fight, I think he was expected to walk right through Kakhramonov. And what you saw is
no. You're thinking of Usman Nurmagomedov. This is cousin Umar.
Sorry, my bad.
He took on cousin Umar, which is how I became
your boy.
Familiar with Kakhramonov. Is that fight, and he did well.
Yeah, Usman undefeated in Bellator, Umar undefeated in the UFC, Khabib undefeated in the UFC. It's like, that's the highest level. And I remember watching the Kakhramonov fight, betting on Umar Nurmagomedov, and just, it was a sweat the whole time. In the third round, I thought Umar, breaks him through and then kind of breaks on through to the other side, and Kakhramonov kind of fell behind. But for the first two rounds, this kid's big and strong. He's got a big old back on him. I mean, he leans on you solid, good striking, doesn't throw a ton of volume. He seems like more one of these guys that's using the striking to set up these clinch exchanges. But once he gets to these clinch exchanges, he's thriving in them. So it was my bad that I didn't go with him in his UFC debut. I liked him from that PFL fight. He had lost a fight by flying knee to Pipe Vargas, I think, in between. So it kind of reeled me off of him when he made that debut against, I guess a solid enough guy in Trevin Jones, who's kind of known as an upset specialist, but short notice, leans on him the whole time, but a solid performance. And not solid enough for me to pick him against my boy Ronnie Lawrence. And then, holy shit, Paul, he just ragdolled him like a sack of potatoes. 10 takedowns. Whenever he wanted them, they were there.
That was
and Ronnie was a guy that was taking guys down 10 times. Right? Like, that was his game. And he just absolutely mauled him. So honestly, when I think about this fight with Saeed Nurmagomedov, Saeed's got the striking advantage. He's got the volume. If this fight is a striking battle, he's going to win. He'll win from the outside. He'll win from the inside. No problem. If Kakhramonov can get takedowns, and I think there's a high likelihood he's going to get takedowns, he's way bigger. He's way stronger. And I think he's going to have a lot of control time with those takedowns en route to a victory, a decision victory, sadly enough, another decision. But I got to say Kakhramonov by decision. That's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, I'm with you on there. On Prize Picks, they got it set at 14.75, but I don't mind the over there. I think this fight does go to decision, and I think it's really going to come down to Kakhramonov. Yeah, I was kind of shell-shocked, kind of surprised when he just absolutely ragdolled Ronnie Lawrence, who is a very good wrestler in his own right, and just took him down at will. That was like, okay. I mean, I was impressed by him when he took on Umar when they were both so young at the time. It was back in 2018, and they're both young prospects even still in this division. And I was just like, okay, this guy could be something. And then he showed up on the scene, and, great performance against Trevin Jones. And then, that Ronnie Lawrence was a real eye-opener. It's just like, okay, this guy's going to be around for a long time. I'm with you. I got Kakhramonov by decision, but we're living in the world where Doug Crosby could be in attendance. So if Kakhramonov gets takedowns, but the bigger, more damaging strikes are landed by Saeed before he lands those takedowns, who knows who gets the decision when it goes to when the judges actually turn in their cards. I think it's relatively decently lined fight for this very reason. But yeah, I'll side with you. I'm gonna take Kakhramonov in this pick'em fight. But I don't know if I'm gonna really build up the cone. It's probably more of a fight that if I see something live, if Kakhramonov is committed to those takedowns early, that I'll jump on something live. We got Rafa Garcia taking on the legend of Mahashat. Minus 135 for Rafa Garcia. Mahashate can be had for plus 115. What are your thoughts here, buddy?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Rafa Garcia, another fighter that I think that originally, a write-off of sorts, and then just slowly guy's a hard worker, man. He's training at an elite level out of Las Vegas, making improvements, getting good time in, and I think you see his work come to good use. He makes his debut relatively short notice against Nasrat Haqparast as a big underdog. And yeah, he loses the fight, but he actually gave a good showing, for a guy that wasn't expected to do much. He showed some levels. His fight with Chris Grutzmacher, he's now a big favorite, and first round, 5 takedowns, looked great in the first round, then gassed out. So yeah, at this point, he's a bit of a write-off, but the fight with Natan Levy, 7 takedowns. I mean, he's like a dog on a bone. That's what I like about him, right? If he gets the takedown, you pop back up, he's back on you. He needs his cardio in check. If he shows up with Grutzmacher cardio, his style does not work. If he shows up with a full tank of gas, that style is extremely effective, and that's being that grind. So against Natan Levy tried his best to fight back and do what he could to stay in an upright position, but Rafa Garcia broke him down. Now his fight with Jesse Ronson. Ronson, much better striker. Rafa Garcia, probably going to get touched up. Not quite the case. Again, dog in the bone mentality. He breaks through the pocket, gets a hold of him, pins him up against the cage, gets working on him for takedowns. Gets the takedowns. Once he's on top, he's breaking Jesse Ronson's spirit. You see Ronson minute by minute. It's just like his soul's evaporating in there. And then it's an illegal knee. Rafa Garcia zaps him with an illegal knee. Ronson's got heart of a champion, big old cojones on him. He tells the ref, sure, I'm good to go. Probably wasn't good to go, but says he's good to go, and then gets snagged up in a choke. So it's an unfortunate ending. Like, it's not, your clean cut win. But again, I think you're seeing him make those improvements, and it's more of a grinding style. He wants multiple takedowns. He had 7 against Natan Levy, 5 against Chris Grutzmacher, 3 in that fight with Jesse Ronson, and didn't even make it out of the second round. And then his last fight against Drakkar Klose, again, Klose is kind of everybody's darling, right? He's competing at a high level. He had come back from his neck issues from the Jeremy Stevens shove, had a big clean win in the UFC, comes into this fight as a big favorite. I'd back Drakkar Klose on my top ticket, and it's, again, Drakkar Klose wins, but it's another case of every time outside of the Grutzmacher fight that I see Rafa. Bro, he goes for it. He makes these fights close. He's making those improvements. I thought he had a decent showing against Drakkar Klose. He landed 3 takedowns. He probably out-grappled them in spots. Unfortunately, didn't quite land as many strikes as he needed to and lost a close decision. But decent stuff out of him. Again, still young, still making improvements, getting good, hard experience in the UFC, and I think that's going to be beneficiary to him. Mahashat. Come on, dude. The guy's got a legendary name. It's like Machete.
Yeah, Mahashat in your apple pie last time out is what
Machete. Dude, he totally Mahashated in my apple pie big time. If you look at his contender series spot against Achilles dummies him in the first round. Like, it's a beating in the first round. And then Achilles completely gasses out, and Mahashat works his way back into it rounds 2 and 3 and wins the fight. Not super pretty, but he didn't win the fight. And then the fight with Steve Garcia, unbelievable. Steve Garcia, hands down, charges face first into a shot that just sits him, gets right back up, and then decides, YOLO, I'm just going to charge right back in. Marcin Prachnio, Sam Alvey style, like just reckless abandon, and then has to pay for it, unfortunately. So I'm sure Mahashat, he does have a good counter right hand. He's got a lot of experience, one of these Chinese regional scene guys that at least got to rack up some experience, low-level fights, but lots of them. I'm sure he's seen a few different situations in his time. To me, though, he's a bit of a slow starter. I don't exactly know what his grappling's like. Achilles Astromandura never tried to get him to the ground. Steve Garcia ran face first into 2 big shots, all within the first 90 seconds of the fight. So what's his grappling like? What's his cardio? His cardio is okay, because again, you saw him on the Contender Series. When it mattered, he had the better cardio, but he relied on Achilles tiring out. What I'm saying is Rafa comes in good shape. Last fight of the year, last UFC of the year, last chance to get paid right before Christmas. He shows up in shape, motivated, ready to go, and has a gas tank. He wins this fight. He backs him up. He lays him into the cage, grinds him, pulls him to the ground, gets some top time. If Mahashat gets back up, pull him right back down. And if Mahashat lands that big shot, which is entirely capable of doing, Rafa Garcia got a hell of a chin on him, bro. He can take a punch. I'm not worried about that. So that counter shot is not going to fold him the same way it did Garcia, but allow him to hopefully get hit and then just come right through it, complete the takedown, and grind him. That would be the way to win it. So Rafa Garcia, again, I'm leaning towards another decision on this one. I think Mahashat's, durable enough to lie on his back for 15 minutes and get grinded on. Rafa, meanwhile, he's thinking more about getting the takedown than what's he going to do with the takedown once he gets it there. So probably more of a decision fight, but got to go with Rafa Garcia.
All right, this is the shoey bet right here. I'm going to back my guy, Mahashat. The market is working its way away from me at this point. But he's only 23 years old. I see a lot of skill, a lot of talent in a lot of his striking techniques, what he's able to do. I am a little bit concerned that he's going to get taken down and held down. There's really not that much tape on him. That's what that's why he was such a I think it had more to do with the fact that he was such a crazy underdog on Contender Series when he came in, because the books literally didn't have access to any of his previous fights. There was no information on this guy. The kid is enormous. He's 6 feet tall in this division, just a very, very big lightweight. I expect to see more improvements. I know that Rafa Garcia has never been knocked out, but Mahashat may be the guy to do it. I'm going to wait for this. It seems like, money has been coming in on Garcia for a little bit here. I'm going to wait until about weigh-ins because I feel like there will be some buyback when they see, 5'7" Rafa Garcia standing next to 6 feet tall Mahashat. I think there will be some buyback, but maybe I can get a plus 125 or so on Mahashat. But I'll take your 2-1 on this whole shoey operation. I'll take Mahashat. You get Rafa Garcia. Deal?
Deal.
Boom. There we go. Locked and loaded. All right, we got Rinat Fakhretdinov taking on Bryan Battle. Fakhretdinov is a minus 145 favorite. Bryan Battle can be had for plus 125. This was relatively closer to a pick'em. Action's been coming in on Fakhretdinov. The general consensus, I suppose, is that Fakhretdinov is going to land takedowns at will. What do you think about that? And are you picking Fakhretdinov?
Yeah, well, I think initially I was Fakhretdinov. If it ends in a no V, it's for me. You know the old saying, Paul. Takedown artist, 5 takedowns in his last time against Achilles. Achilles actually kind of a big body for the division, if anything. And just once he takes you down, he controls you. So I could see him doing exactly that. He probably will do exactly that. He probably will win the fight. However, I think I overextended myself on an underdog play here. I need a couple underdogs. I felt like Bryan Battle was one of the guys with plus money next to his name that had a shot at winning. Why? I'll tell you why. Damage over control. You're seeing this all the time, okay? One guy can get the takedowns, but doesn't do anything with it. What I saw from Fakhretdinov in his fight with Michailidis is the same thing I saw him on the regional scene. He gets takedowns, and he does a whole lot of laying on top, right? Bryan Battle's been... Yeah, he's certainly making as many improvements as he can. He's been working, but he's been working on his takedown defense. He's a pretty decently good size guy, good shape, and he's got good volume. Excellent kicks from the outside, feeling himself, starting to really develop and come into his own. I feel like he's got a bright future, not someone that's going to challenge for a title, but someone that's going to factor in the division for years to come. The main thing here is how many of those takedowns can he stuff? And beyond that, for me personally, can I land some shots, land the better shots in between the engagements of getting taken down and persuade the judges? Because again, this is in Las Vegas. You just saw how bad Las Vegas judging can be. And what was bad about it? Well, it seems like they're going for control time. They're going for damage over control time. Everyone can say, I thought Ankalaev won, don't get me wrong. But those first 2 rounds, Jan landed the shots, right? The Paddy Pimblett fight with Jared Gordon. Yeah, bullshit. I get it. But it's Paddy was landing the shots, right? Well, not the first round. I don't know. That was a weird fight altogether, bro. Let's be honest. What I'm saying is that you're seeing a lot of these instances where there may be one guy getting the takedowns. He might be spending time on top. He might be pressing you into the cage. It's those short little shots in between that they seem to be factoring in. And this could be another instance of that. Bryan Battle has good volume. He's got a good solid ability to fight 15 minutes. He's a durable enough guy. He's got good cardio. And I think he's tricky. He's got some okay jiu-jitsu. He's got some okay takedown defense. Fakhretdinov, a better wrestler. Fakhretdinov probably does take him down, but I don't think that's enough to just foregone conclusion he's going to win. Just because he's on top doesn't mean he wins. Should, but how often are we seeing doesn't, right? You mentioned the Danny Sabatello fight. Come on, bro. I thought Danny won. I thought Danny Sabatello won.
It was close.
Because
50-45.
Because of the control time.
50-45. Danny was really bad. I mean, Doug should never ever have a scorecard in front of him ever again. Like, that's pretty.
But it's the same argument that I've used against other guys. So I think Danny won because Danny had the takedowns, Danny had the control time, right? But it's the same thing going back to, say, Eric Anders versus Jung Young Park, right? It's like, yeah, he's getting the takedowns and he's leaning on him. It's like, no, but he's not landing any punches. He's getting punched up the whole time. He's getting hit the whole time. Well, I got a takedown. Well, what's a takedown if you got outstruck 20-10 in that round? Like, well, what is a takedown? So it's very subjective to who the judges are. Now, here's the interesting thing about Danny Sabatello. One guy's got it 50-45. The other two guys got it for Stotts. It's all over the place. When you look at the UFC card this weekend, it's the same thing. It's all over the place. And John McCarthy's own kid, Ron McCarthy, right? I'm not making this shit up. This is real life. Ron McCarthy, John's kid, Big John, is a ref, or is a judge in the UFC. Scored the fight for Paddy Pimblett. John apparently called him disgraceful. How could you score that fight for Paddy Pimblett? And the guy's like, oh, he was the one working. He was the one doing stuff. So how does the entire internet, how does the entire everyone in the venue, how does everyone watching at home, how does everyone see it one way, but somebody else sees it some way else? Well, because they're sitting ringside. Those little short little shots that you don't quite see, they do. Maybe that makes a difference. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. What I'm saying is Fakhridinov's style of lay and pray is going to get him robbed in the scorecards. My boy Ismagulov, my own fault for betting him all the time, he gets robbed on the scorecards because they don't care about a takedown and control time. They want the damage. Yep. He's getting out hit by Charles Johnson. He's getting out hit by Jeff Molina. They don't care about the takedown and the control time. That's what I'm thinking here. I'm thinking Brian Battle could just land the better shots in that space, right? So, slight underdog play Brian Battle, but when you're going against an OV who can wrestle, you don't got to high up on the tickets. It's low level.
I think you're really overrating Brian Battle's takedown defense.
I might be.
I mean, Cheyanne Gore was able to take him down twice. Gilbert Urbina took him down twice. Like, I don't know, man. Maybe this Russian can just, if he sticks to that game plan, is able to take him down.
By not making this your shoey bet, Paul, because you had the opportunity.
No, because you
had the opportunity.
The argument you are making for Brian Battle is literally the argument you could have taken for, or is the exact opposite of like Mahashat versus Garcia.
Rafa Garcia is a dog on a bone, dog. There's a difference between this kind of wrestling. You will see that on Saturday.
What, you think that Rafa Garcia is a better wrestler than Rinat Fakhritinov?
No. I'm saying I think Rafa Garcia is okay with you getting back up, so he'll swing at you and to try to land. He'll try to pass. Fakhritinov is more, I'm going to stall you down. Maybe I don't think I'm overrating Brian Battle as much as I may be underrating Fakhridinov's ground and pound and submission game a little bit. But to me, I think he's going to get the takedowns and stay on top. And that's going to be a winning strategy for people at home, but I don't know that it's enough to get the judge's decision. So either it's a pass altogether, 14 fights, why not pass on one of them? To me, This screams pass. But again, 14 fights, what are the dog spots with the plus money that you might be willing to take a shot? Not a whole lot of spots for me personally. This is probably, I think this is only my second dog, and we got 3 even money picks. Basically the same shit, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess in your defense, Brian Battle's coming in on really, really short notice for this fight. Fakhritinov was matched up with Michael Morales, who looks like a little stud in training, who is going to be big problems. Well, he didn't have a great performance.
He's just a bae, Paul. He's not a man.
He's just a baby.
Just a bae.
Just a boy. But the kid's super, super, super talented. So Rinat was probably being brought in as the B-side in that situation, to be perfectly honest. So either way, I'm going to go with Rinat. I don't think I'm going to be betting it. We got Manel Kopp taking on David Dvorak, minus 235 Kopp, plus 200 Dvorak. What's your take here, bud?
Well, we already know that there's a possibility that one guy could Mahashat in my apple pie. Now we need to face the situation that another guy might cop right in the apple pie. Because I think Manel Kopp, dude, I think the world of this guy. I've always thought the world of him back to his Ryzen days where he's allowed to wear shoes. But, man, just dynamic, extremely explosive. If he hits you, there's not a whole lot of flyaways that generate power like this guy. And he's a legitimate champion. Comes over to the UFC. And it's just been like the case of low output, in that debut against Alexander Pantoja. People forget that Alexander Pantoja is one of the best guys in the division. So it's a super tough UFC debut, but he had opportunities to win that fight. He just never pulled the trigger. He stared at him. He allowed the moment to slip away from him. Tough luck. Hopefully you learn from that. The next fight with Matheus Nicolau, much of the same. There's an argument he won, but very much he was deer in the headlights, stared at him the entire time, and just allowed the moment to slip away. So now people are writing him off completely, and that's allowed us to cash 2 good tickets on him. Him against Ody Osborne, it's a flying knee. I wouldn't call it a fluke. Like, it's a beautiful strike. And if you see the guy set the stuff up, he's extremely dynamic. It's all skill, but it's also another one of these spots that's like, would he have just gone back to, low output had he not landed that knee? Maybe. And then his last fight against Ismagulov, you want to talk about low output? Someone got in his ear and must have told him all the same stuff. It's like, bro, let your hands go, and you are fast. He's got some of the fastest hands in the division, some of the best power in the division. He's a BJJ brown belt. If you remember the Pantoja fight, he had 2 really nice takedowns over Pantoja. He's the complete package. He just needs to find that rhythm where he's settled and he's confident and he hits that flow state. And I don't know, Zalgas is always in these close fights. He's always in competitive fights. His fights are either him getting robbed on split decisions or in the Albazi situation, a competitive unanimous decision loss. Kopp cut right through him. 2 knockdowns, absolute savage beating. 53 significant strikes landed in the first round. 4 minutes into the first round, he'd already landed 53 significant strikes, and he was allowing Zalgas to hit him. He just didn't care. He just buzzsawed right through. That kind of approach is going to get him quite far, I believe. Unless he was to gas out. But again, at flyweight, they tend to be able to throw a little bit longer, a little bit further into rounds. So we'll see. David Dvorak, meanwhile, he's capable of being the guy to defeat Manel Kopp because he's a good fighter. He really is. He's durable enough. He's got good striking. He presents a lot of problems for fighters. And I think he goes through a lot of these decisions, right? Competitive enough decisions. His fight with Bruno Silva, competitive. His fight with his last time out against Matheus Nicolau, had he not gotten dropped by Nicolau, there's a solid argument that he may have won the fight. I mean, he keeps it close. He keeps it competitive. The problem is that he's another one of these guys that's low output. And so if Manel Kopp's only going to land 50 and you're only going to land 50, I can assure you his 50 are going to matter a lot more. You need to go out there and cleanly outwork the guy. And if he's come in with a new mentality of you're not going to work me anymore, and he comes with his lunchbox and he goes out there and does the same thing against Zalgas, again, he's going to be a problem. In both scenarios, it seems like Kopp's starting to turn the corner, but there is a little bit of hesitancy that knows that he's capable of coming out here and just staring and allowing the moment slip away. Because in his mind, he won those fights. He was shocked when the decision was read on both occasions because he didn't understand, why am I losing? He thinks he's winning. That's dangerous. But again, the fact that he's won his last 2, he seems to be throwing more. He seems to be way more aggressive. He seems to be a lot more comfortable. I would think that that's the coaching staff, the training partners, them doing their job and getting this kid to that next level. So if that's where he's headed or if that's where he is already, he's going to be too big of a problem for David Dvorak. So yes, I'm up for Manel Kopp to get the job done.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you said there. Manel Kopp, if he can show up with the volume that he did against, the Zalgas performance was just like insane. In fairness, I guess Manel Kopp has failed a drug test recently. I don't know all the details of all of that, but it is very, very interesting. Both of these guys are relatively low volume in their approach when they go in there. The minus 235 scares me because if it is a low volume striking affair between 2 flyweights that goes to the decision, it would feel like Dvorak is probably the value side there. I'll pick Kopp for the purposes of this show, but not a spot that I have very, very much confidence in laying that type of number with. And finally, we've got Sergey Morozov taking on Journey Newson. Minus 285 Morozov, plus 240 Newson. Take it away.
Newson's just had such a strange run in the UFC. Like, debuts in, and he's a boxer, and that's his whole thing. The guy can box. He doesn't throw kicks. He doesn't wrestle a whole lot. But if you want to stand with him, he'll have an entertaining fight with you. His fight with Ricardo Ramos, he gets taken down because he's a boxer, right? He can't grapple, so that's his demise there. His fight with Domingo Pilarte, he had initially won the fight. He knocked out Pilarte in like 38 seconds, and then he fails a drug test. So now he has to go on the sidelines. He comes back from the sidelines, and Randy Costa kicks him right in the head. 41 seconds into the fight, knocks him out. So at this point, he's sustained very little success. The one win is overruled to a no contest, failed drug test. He's a boxer. Boxing doesn't look very good. Doesn't have the rest of those MMA skills. Takes 2 full years off after the Randy Costa loss. Comes back and they match him up against Fernie Garcia. And then he must have been wrestling in his 2 years off, because like for the first time you've seen a concentrated effort that he didn't want to just strike anymore and box. He wanted to get this fight to the ground and kind of use that new profound grappling. Against Fernie Garcia, it actually worked. He got 2 takedowns. He got some control time. He landed some decent ground and pound. He ended up winning the fight. In the first round, he did not look good. The second and the third round, he made the adjustments, got the takedowns going. Is what it is. I would say low-level win. I would say he did something he wasn't even comfortable doing in order to get the win. So now you approach him. What does he do well? Well, he's got that boxing. Yeah, but he's not even comfortable doing it. He's not trying to go with their throw. He shows no knockouts other than the one time that he had knocked out Domingo Pilarte, and then it's ruled a no contest. How much did that take out of him? The drug test. How much did getting knocked out against Randy Costa take out of him? Maybe he doesn't want to get hit anymore. He took 2 full years off. He's been wrestling and grappling the whole time. All of this is just kind of like lost fighter, kind of searching for something ever so slightly. Sergey Morozov, meanwhile, he is going to wrestle. He's going to come in. He's going to wrestle. He's a guy that can do it all. You've seen him on the regional scene. Hiccups, the loss to Josh Reddinghouse. He's had a couple bad spots on the regional scene. But for the most part, outside of Movsar Evloev, like he was the kind of the top bantamweight in Russia for a long time. Guy can do it all, can strike, can wrestle, can stay aggressive in your face. I bet a good amount against him against Douglas D'Andrade. I thought the first round he looked tremendous. Second round he gets clipped. As he gets clipped, D'Andrade is all over him. I would dare you to go find someone with a better body than Douglas D'Andrade. He is so jacked and ripped up, man. That was a dangerous fight. It was a dangerous fight because he's a black belt. He was able to keep himself safe on the ground, and when he got back up, he hits like an absolute hammer. So Morozov had some problems there. They book him against Rolian Pava. In theory, Pava is going to have the same problems. Trains at Team Alpha Male, kind of a big guy, and is a power puncher. Morozov just went back to the wrestling, and this time didn't gas out. This time didn't give him those same opportunities, didn't make those same mistakes. So I think that, again, he's another one of these guys that we know that he can wrestle. He's an OV guy. He'll go to the wrestling, and I think he's comfortable with that. With Journey Newson, if Journey Newson wants to box with him, go back to his boxing days, he's just going to get taken down. If he goes in and tries to wrestle with him, he's going to get danced around, I think, fairly handedly. Morozov just a far better grappler. So in both instances, outside of puncher's chance, I think Morozov just takes him down and has his way with him. I will admit with Morozov, there's one knock. He's not big on finishes, at least not at the UFC level. He seems more like one of these guys that's just going to grind you, land some ground and pound, touch you up, but not necessarily put you away. And maybe Journey Newson's tough enough to just ride it out and survive. So I'm tempted to go with the Morozov by decision. But as you've listened to the show, you probably know, I got a lot of decisions on this card. Someone's going to get sparked and knocked out. And, this one's greasy enough that it could be one of these guys. So I don't know that I'm going to chase a prop on it, but the pick will be Sergey Morozov.
Yeah, pick for me is going to be Sergey Morozov as well. Minus 285 doesn't really get me all that excited. I think that he should be able to lean on his wrestling here, should be able to be at least really it's pretty much outside of getting bonked, like absolutely getting knocked out on a crazy strike that lands perfectly for Journey Newson. I don't really see too many paths to victory for Journey Newson. The one fight I guess I would go back to maybe look at is Josh Reddinghouse M1 challenge versus Morozov. Like, how did that knock out? I can't recall, obviously. And
yeah, Reddinghouse is a junkyard dog, a guy that can wrestle with you tit for tat. He's from the Pacific Northwest, 25 fights under his belt, and fought in Russia quite a bit. So, shit happens. I understand he got caught there, but Journey Newson, come on. If this fight happened in M1, we wouldn't even be talking about it, right? They wouldn't even be odds. That's how big of this line would be. It's happening in the UFC. We're getting a bettable line. It just got to go Morozov.
Yeah. No. My only question was just how did that all kind of play out? And that's the only reason I was kind of questionable about it. Because, yeah, Newson does hit hard, and maybe, just maybe, that would be the path for him. But Morozov will be the pick for me. Bets that I have this week, I got Cannonier plus 100, Amir Albazi inside the distance minus 120, and Winn by decision. That's Deron Winn by decision plus 375. Considering Oleksiejczuk, but because he's, former 205 or 185, he made it last time. He looked good last time. Just want to, make sure that, that he gets that job done, gets that part of the job done, makes weight, and all of that stuff. So I'm considering him inside the distance -110 if that line sticks around long enough. Mahashat, going to continue to watch that market move, and I'm not going to put my faith behind Cory McKenna to put out, to actually stick to a game plan, get takedowns, and secure position, because I'm just not going to put my money there. I did write it down as a maybe, but that was me. That was me hitting the delete button, Cody, because Elise Reed, if she does the exact same thing and then tries to stand at range with Vlismas, loses a decision or gets finished, I'm going to be like, okay, well, this is just the Elise Reed fight all over again, and I lost money by doing, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on you. Yes. I almost had a George Bush moment there. Anyway, Cody,
Yeah.
I'm prize picks. The only two that I actually, I've actually locked in 3 legs. We got Erosa more than 65.5 significant strikes, and then the over for fight time, which you're getting slight value compared to like the market on. Over 14.75 minutes on the Dober and the Nurmagomedov fights. That's why I like on prize picks. Cody, you know what time it is. Hit him with the PRP.
All right, starting with the main event, we are going to go with Simple Sean. And then we're going to take Damir Ismagulov, dog number 1, Amir Albazi, Julian Erosa, Drew Dober, Michael Oleksiejczuk, Cheyanne buys, Jake Matthews, Julian Marquez, Saidyokub, Kakhramonov, technically dog number 2 if you want to be technical on things. Rafa Garcia, Brian Battle, dog number 3, Manel Kopp, and Sergey Morozov. So 14 fights, only going with 3 underdogs. But again, it just depends on like who you're most confident. To me, I seem like I wouldn't say value because 290 Morozov's not considered value, but like I'm going to play Morozov. I feel like he's going to have some money. Kopp to a certain extent. Kakhramonov, I think that's great value because it's even money. It's going to really juice things up. Jake Matthews seems good to me this week. I know Paul doesn't agree, but Cheyanne buys kind of at the lower echelon. Mikey O, Julian Erosa, Amir Albazi. The rest of them, Simple Sean, you can hedge out of the main event too. He's real simple. But I mean, dude, 150 significant strikes landed. Sign me up for that. If he can just keep throwing and hopefully his little inbred head is just enough to take a punch or two, then hopefully he stays upright and gets the victory.
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't get the victory because I bet Jared. But we will find out. Anyway, we will have a Christmas special, which will be airing on Fight Network and maybe Game Plus, and it'll be right here on the Mayo Media Network YouTube page. Not sure the exact date that we're releasing that, but we're recording it on Monday, so I don't know. I don't make these big decisions. I don't know when they actually get released out to you guys, but we'll go through like all the awards and all of that. It'll just be more of like a fun show than, breaking down tape and breaking down all of the numbers and all of that stuff. Wrap up the year that is 2022 and move into 2023. Obviously, there's not another card for basically a month after this card, so it'll be a nice welcomed little time off, and hopefully we can start 2023 on a heater. But that is it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. For producer Megan and Cody Saftic, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.